fishing net is, paradoxically, an unusual sight today in this land where fish are plentiful. A land where for centuries the Buddhist religion provided a practical faith for its people, and where most of the population led peaceful lives in villages where there was always enough to eat. This is Cambodia, Kampuchea, the land of the Khmer people. In recent years, the country has undergone the most terrible period of suffering in its history. How many Khmers have been killed, no one will ever know for certain. More than 1 million, perhaps, many of them children. These are the lucky ones. They survived. Just. There are tens of thousands of children like these in Kampuchea today, without parents, without homes, without food. The devastation of Kampuchea is seen most vividly in its towns and cities. Battambang, in the northwest part of the country, was a prosperous and flourishing city with more than 500,000 inhabitants. Then, in 1975, all the people were either killed or forced to abandon their homes, leaving Battambang to become a ghost town. When the regime changed in 1979, the International Committee of the Red Cross started negotiations with the new authorities in Phnom Penh. Their aim, to launch a program of relief for the people of Kampuchea. Eventually, a few representatives from the ICRC and UNICEF were allowed to set up office in the capital. But with the whole infrastructure of society completely destroyed, their task was not going to be easy. One of the first ICRC delegates in Phnom Penh was Peter Bultensberger.
Our very first problems have been the displacement of ourselves. And we have been very lucky to have 2 bicycles for the delegation here to move in the town. Otherwise, we had shoes. I remember we had the very first beginning to write a letter to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and we did realize that we never will get an answer, because in the ministry they did not have any typewriting machine, they did not have a piece of paper. So first we have to bring them some paper, some pencils, a typewriting machine, and so on and so on.
For decades, the fertile plains of Kampuchea produced rich and abundant harvests. There was enough rice to feed all the population, and there was more to export. But now the irrigation systems have been wrecked. There is an acute shortage of seeds, and most of the land that was formerly cultivated has not been planted. The result, a rice crop that is a fraction of the normal yield. And so the principal occupation of the Khmers has become the search for food. The problems of trying to carry out an effective aid program in Kampuchea today are daunting, even at the most basic level of operation.
The transport on the highways is very difficult and very slow. You cannot drive more than 40 kilometers per hour. That means a truck has the double speed of a bicycle. And over hundreds of kilometers, that's a problem. The bridges are very often repaired with wooden pieces and so on, so you have to load trucks only half of the normal weight. That's why we consider the transport on the river on one hand and on the railway on the other hand as very important. But again, for the railway, they have some diesel locomotives, but not enough. They have been destroyed, and we are on the way to a small emergency program to repair them. On the other hand, they use again steam locomotives made in Europe in 1912, and they are collecting wood to heat the locomotives.
Kampuchea's shattered transportation system means that even when the ICRC and UNICEF are given full support from the authorities, it's still exceptionally difficult to get the aid to those who need it most. The relief agencies are now trying to establish a program throughout the country to ensure that each child gets at least 1 glass of milk a day. But they are compelled to move by slow degrees. The shortage of medical supplies is as acute as the shortage of food, and personnel from the ICRC visit Kampuchea's hospitals to establish specific needs.
Est-ce qu'on peut aller regarder ce qu'on a apporté avec monsieur pour lui expliquer?
Oui? Oui, oui.
We are also on the way to make our program for the supplementary feeding. That's a milk program, milk and sugar and oil and enriched wheat flour, especially for children, for dispensaries and for the patients in the hospitals.
Medical experience is at present extremely difficult to find amongst the Khmers. This young man had previously studied to become an anaesthetist. Now he has to act as a surgeon. There are 160 hospitals and dispensaries and over 1,000 first aid posts in Kampuchea. But under the previous regime, all drugs and medicines were destroyed, all hospital equipment smashed, and most medical personnel disappeared. In 1975, there were more than 500 doctors in Kampuchea. Today, some 50 of them are left to care for the whole population. With such conditions of deprivation prevailing in Kampuchea, increasing numbers of Khmers have managed to find their way to the country's border with Thailand. People like this woman, who gave birth to her child as she struggled to make the crossing. Hundreds of thousands of Khmers are now to be found in places like these. Some of them are holding centres established securely inside Thai territory. Others are vast, sprawling encampments that have grown up with no definable limits and with a constantly fluctuating population. This means that not only are they in the danger zones close to the border fighting, but also that no one knows at any given time just how many displaced people there are. Some of them stay a day or two, most much longer. What's certain is that all of them wish one day to go home. In carrying out its responsibilities for coordinating all medical aid to the camps, the ICRC has had outstanding support from the national Red Cross societies. Doctors, nurses and nutritionists have come here from Australia and New Zealand, from Canada, Japan, America, from the countries of Europe and from the host country itself, Thailand. Each morning, the delegates report to the local ICRC base near the border. The medical teams assemble at the central pharmacy, where all the Red Cross medical supplies are stored. Men and women from all over the world who have responded to the call for help in carrying out a major humanitarian operation. Here they load up with everything they expect to need to cope with any emergency, before setting off in all directions to the various camps. One of the many difficulties facing the relief agencies is that they are unable to use the roads across the border into Kampuchea. But on the Thai side of the frontier, the ICRC and UNICEF arrange convoys to bring much-needed rice to the border encampments. Representatives from the Central Tracing Agency of the ICRC regularly visit the camps, bringing for the lucky ones letters from relations living abroad.
Mr. Molivan. Non Chamron. Non Chamron. Monsieur Tai Hu. Ka Kuyu. Hip Kem Sin. Ban Samet. Et puis là, Liang Heng. Kakuyu, il est ici? Ah. Pas Kakuyu. Maintenant, Madame Samuk Kali. Liang Sita. Monsieur Tan Teng Ho.
For the homeless people in these areas, Red Cross delegates represent a link with another world. There's always the hope that they may have news of friends or relations, or may be able to trace members of families who have disappeared or been separated by the fighting.
familles qui sont parties en même temps que vous sont arrivées ici ou bien vous êtes dispersés
Les
pour...
65 familles, ce n'est pas 603.
65 familles, oui.
65 familles.
Vous êtes partis ensemble ou bien vous êtes tous arrivés ici ou vous êtes dispersés?
Je ne sais pas. Peut-être ils sont dispersés.
My family are very poor in my country today, and my father are sick. My father are sick in my country today, and I want to take the medicine here and some rice for my family. And I have no money for buying for my family. I want to make the medicine here.
At one of the distribution points along the border, the arrival of the trucks is awaited patiently. But today something has gone wrong. They wait. And they wait. And then the reason for the hold-up becomes clear. On the edge of a nearby encampment, there's a sudden burst of military activity. What caused fighting to break out is not clear, but in any case to the victims it's unimportant. For them, this is yet another upheaval in their tragically dislocated lives. Red Cross delegates wait for the green light from the military authorities to allow them to go and look for any casualties that may have been left behind. Meanwhile, the refugees clamber onto trucks and buses that have been rapidly summoned to carry them to safety and another stage in their rootless existence. The border between Kampuchea and Thailand is both long and ill-defined. As you travel south, the landscape changes. But the principal problem for the International Red Cross remains the same: the plight of the homeless, the hungry and the sick. Here at Kamput, the medical coordinator who comes from the Finnish Red Cross is Dr. Koskela.
At the beginning we had very many cases which we couldn't save anymore. So we lost patients because of the malaria and because of the very bad malnutrition. This building here is a school which we changed for a hospital ward. And because the building is rather good, we also took that heat surgical unit close to this place. The operating theater and the additional services are established in the tent. The border is about 2 kilometers from this camp. Every day there is fighting going on in that border area. We very often get war casualties, wounded soldiers and wounded civilians. We were requested also to supervise and to advise building this new camp on the opposite of the road. Altogether it was originally planned to have only 20,000 refugees, but since a few weeks we were told that in the future this camp will probably have 40, even 50 or 60,000 refugees.
It's sometimes forgotten that as refugees from Kampuchea have flooded into Thailand, so the lives of some 200,000 Thais in the villages along the border have been totally disrupted. The relief program now provides basic assistance for them too. Several relief organizations are helping the Thai authorities deal with the vast influx of people. The United Nations High Commission for Refugees is responsible for the administration of this huge holding center at Khao Dang. The ICRC runs the medical program. The camp covers an area of 4 square kilometers on land which has been provided by the Thai government. Over 100,000 refugees are located within its boundaries, and one way and another, Khao Dang is rapidly becoming a large, well-organized town. Red Cross medical teams must be flexible and able to adapt readily to different conditions. One team from the German Red Cross makes a daily safari to a border clearing where a small number of Khmers, mostly women, come for treatment. Dr. Holger Dietz.
When we first had 2 teams coming here, we found about 300 sick people here with malaria. It was an epidemiological area for malaria. Nearly 90 to 100% of the people had periodical fever. They were very bad malnutrition. They had no provision of any kind for quite a while. And we had to start our work on very low measures like bringing in food, building up hospitals or wards to put the very sick patients.
Vous lui demandez pourquoi elle vient me revoir. Alors, à quoi allez?
Non, không đau.
Không khuôn có đau.
Dạ, hay chân chùm 2 màu. Tam chùm 1
Une
đau.
béquinine
Việc đau khô lang cái đau.
Ça sur un présentoir.
They have now nurses looking for the patients in the night and slowly build up a system which they can pertain themselves.
It's impossible to calculate accurately just how many of the Khmer people are now living in the border areas. But at one time there were more than 800,000. As always, in such crowded conditions as exist here, there's a continuing anxiety about possible epidemics, something the medical teams work hard to prevent. The provision of medical treatment and food supplies will remain the first priorities in helping the homeless people for a long time.
The next one will come here, but it's
special for this one. It's for the medicine. And the hospital is very close to the bridge, so it will be better to unload the medicine in near the temple.
I tell him.
Huh? Okay.
Almost all the food comes from the World Food Programme. Its distribution is organised by the ICRC and UNICEF. But the problems of arranging rice distributions on the border are never simple and are frequently hazardous. On one occasion, a convoy was attacked by armed raiders. At the same time, many refugees were killed or wounded, and ICRC hospitals in the camps were looted and burned. As a result, for a time, food distributions to some of the camps had to be suspended altogether. Some of the people here have travelled more than 60 kilometres on bicycle or on foot to collect rice for their families inside Kampuchea. Now they must cover the same distance, carrying loads of up to 75 kilograms. It's one of the ironies of the situation on the border that these Khmers are able to make their way back to their country by the short route the relief agencies may not use. The only food and medical supplies reaching the Kampuchean capital on a regular basis arrive in Phnom Penh from Bangkok by air.
I believe also that the outside world has no idea and cannot really imagine how life is here. I've been in the port to get in our first relief ship, and the workers in the port, they had to learn how to put a string around the bags to lift them out of the boat and to unload it. We brought also some trucks, and they had to learn how to use these trucks. And they are very, very fast, the people, but they have to learn it, and that takes time. And this example is valuable for everything. And you know, after so many years of war and problems, they do not have anymore a lot of skilled people. You see, in the first beginning, we got very much the impression that the government is trying to install themselves as fast as possible. We do not have to judge the manner or the kind of the system, but we are living in this system. That's one point. The other point, we felt very much that they do not really know the ICRC, and they do not really know our goals, and that we are not working in the name of any government, but that we are working for the sake of the people, of the victims.
To carry out effective humanitarian action, the ICRC must at all times continue to demonstrate its impartiality and its unqualified neutrality. Only by doing so can it maintain its credibility and hope to achieve its aims of protection and assistance for all those who need it in all parts of the world.